Hey everybody, what's going on? What's happening? This your girl Tiffany coming through here live in effect. And I thank you all for tuning in. And shout out to my new subscribers that has been subscribed to my channel. Thank everybody that has been checking out my channel, sharing my videos. All right. So now I want to come into this topic and I'm gonna call out one person in this video. And this person deserves a call out. Okay. So I'm going to talk about, I have a question, rather. Do Black women need the feminist movement? Do Black women need the feminist movement? Now, before I get into do Black women need the feminist movement, I've done the video in the past about the feminist organization or the feminist movement versus Africana womanism. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into the definition of what feminism is. Then I'm going to bring it into the question. All right. In modern time period. So let's go ahead. Let's look up the definition of feminism. Just so we can be clear and be on the page. Okay. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Hope you guys can see that. All right. Now, what is the feminist movement? All right, so feminism is a range of socio-political movement and ideology that aims to define and establish the political, economic, personal, and social equality of the sexes. Feminism incorporates the position that society prioritize the male point of view that women are treated unjustly in these societies. Efforts to change this include fighting against gender stereotypes, establishing educational, professional, and interpersonal opportunities and outcomes for women that are equal to those for men. All right. So it goes on to say the feminist movement have campaigned and continue to campaign for women's rights, including the right to vote, run for public office, work, earn equal pay, own property, receive education. In a contrast, have equal rights within marriage and maternity leave. Feminists have also worked to ensure access to contraception, legal abortion, and social integration, and to protect women and girls from rape, sexual harassment, and domestic violence. Changes in female dress standards and acceptable physical activities for females have often been part of the feminist movement. All right, so basically, to sum it up, the feminist movement is supposed to stand up for the rights of women, right? To give women rights and to protect women's rights. Okay, now let's talk about in the past. In the past, the feminist movement had some benefits, okay, especially when it came down for women employment, women right to be able to own properties, things like that. It has some benefits in the past, but in modern times, do we Black women need to be a part of the feminist movement in modern day? What is it really doing for us now? Where do we find a place in the feminist organization? And what will be a better replacement for the feminist movement? What would be a better replacement? Or do we need it? I will give you my answer. All right, so let me go to the article. And it says, is there a place for black women in white feminism? So let me show y'all this article right here. As women history almost draws to a close in the U.S., we are reminded of all monumental and significant contribution and accomplishment of women who have served as thought leaders, innovators, change agents, and trailblazers in their own right. Along this commemoration recognition of revolutionary movements such as women's suffrage during the 19th and 20th century and the women's liberation movement during the 1960s and 1970s are usually highlighted, but both have received harsh criticism about further silencing the voices and experiences of black women. Bigger than that, although numerous notable white women have taken great strides in their efforts to move the needle in promoting equity for women in America, some argue that many have done not so only on the coattails of black women, but also by and through pushing black women further into the margins. And it goes on to say, for decades, women have fought for equal rights and independence from the oppression of male supremacy and patriarchy. Patriarchy is a political, economic, and cultural ideological system based on the power and domination of men over women through the belief that men are intellectually, biologically, and materially superior to women. Patriarchy has orderly social structures that affects politics, economics, culture, science, and religion. Now, here's something down here that says burn your bra era that was ushered in by feminists such as Susan Brown Miller, who wrote Against Our Will, began to discuss issues related to rape, abortion, motherhood openly, and gave an overall huge yet analytical middle finger to patriarchy and gender norms in America. Although black women served as a driving force in the feminist movement behind the scenes, somehow they remain, for the most part, unseen, unheard on the public stage, and in recognition of the groundbreaking efforts and accomplishment made. All right, so that's this article come from Forbes.com. Now, going back to the question, do we need to be a part of the feminist movement? My answer is no. We do not need the feminist movement. We do not need it. We need to dismantle it. And I'm going to tell you why I say we need to dismantle it. Because the feminist movement of today is very toxic. It's toxic as hell. And you need to dismantle it. Because these feminists and the organization is not centered around bringing men and women together to coexist, but the feminist movement of today want to be like the patriarch. They want to act like the patriarch. That's what they want to be. And it benefits white women more than it does with black women. It doesn't do much for our people in our community. It doesn't change the condition as far as education is concerned, housing is concerned. It doesn't close the racial wealth gap. Hell, it really don't close the gender wealth gap. It don't deal with the homeless crisis. What I'm saying is the feminist movement is not strong enough. It's not strong enough. Because it shows that patriarchy still can override this movement. Women don't have power like you think. Women do not have power like you think. And this goes for CK the poet. I'm calling you out, CK. Women do not have power like you think. Women do not have power. They have what is called privilege. Because there ain't too many women that's in a position of power. The feminist movement has not done anything to dismantle the patriarch. It hasn't. Because the patriarch system is still intact. What they're doing under the patriarch system is giving women privilege. That's all it is. They're not going to give women total power in this country. They're not going to do enough to stop to fight against sex trafficking. The feminist movement is not a strong movement for Black women to be in. The feminist movement is a joke. It's a joke. They have used Black women as a way to further support the agenda. But guess what? Black women don't benefit as much from it. And look at the Black feminist movement. They're not surviving either. You need to give it up. Because it ain't doing nothing. It ain't doing anything for us collectively. What are the feminist movement doing as far as those women who are single mothers? Now, in the past, it gave women opportunity. They did stand up for women's opportunity to get jobs or whatnot. But even with that, that's still based on privilege. The feminist movement has not done anything lately that is of significance. When you hear these feminists talk today, the main thing when it comes to women's rights, the main topic or the main focus is abortion, sexual liberation. And that's it. That's the main thing they focus on. Changing terminology. That's the primary thing they focus on. It's not so much focuses on human sex trafficking. It's not so much focusing on the racism and how to stand up for reparation, right? And adequate health care. You don't hear these feminist women talk about that shit. Oh, and they big. They stand up for the LGBT community more than anybody else. So do we really need a feminist organization? No. You don't need it. But somebody like CK want to tell me that it's beneficial. Beneficial in what way? Beneficial how? Giving a bunch of feel-good rhetorics? Now, there are quite a few feminists who have spoke on the issues, who have gone into detail about what women go through. There is a few of them. Quite a few. But collectively, they don't care. And the feminist movement is dominated by white women. So do you think they have the Black woman in mind to really like focus on the agenda of Black women and what women go through? No. And do you think the Black feminist movement? No, because they want to be accepted by the white feminists. They want to be accepted by the white feminists. So for anything to replace that would be Africana womanism. Why? Because not only you focus on womanhood and go through the rite of passage, but you also focus on the concept of family, nationhood. So if I would suggest anything, I would rather be Africana womanism before I become a feminist. And let me pull up another article. Check this out. This came out on July 13th of 2020 by the American Psychological Association. Black women often ignored by social justice movements. Check this out. Black women are often less likely to be associated with the concept of a typical woman and are viewed as more similar to black men than to white women, which may lead to some anti-racist and feminist movement failing to advocate for the rights of black women. According to the new research published by the American Psychological Association, Black women are often overlooked in people's conversation about racism and sexism, even though they face a unique combination of both of these forms of discrimination simultaneously, said lead researcher Stuart Coles, a PhD candidate at the University of Michigan Department of Communication and Media. This intersectional invisibility means that movements that are supposed to help Black women may be contributing to their marginalization. And this is why I said that women take on part of the blame when it comes to not speaking up and speaking out about the issue of sex trafficking, kidnapping, and misogyny. Why? Because it's not being focused on. As we can see here, according to the article, that Black women have been marginalized by these movements. CK, if you're watching. So y'all can send this video to her because this is directed to her. Okay? Yeah, we see that, they get our hopes up too high and make us believe that, oh, we stand up for your right. We represent y'all. We support y'all. We do this, day, other. We gonna stand by our sisters. But at the end of the day, that's not what they doing. They don't stand by you. They don't really care. Because it's about their benefit. They gonna benefit first before you will benefit. Let's continue. And it says the research was published online in the APA journal Translational Issues in Psychological Science. The study was conducted online with more than 1,000 participants from the United States who were asked whether 41 positive or negative stereotypical attributes such as hostile, sexually promiscuous, or determined were associated with different races or genders. Participants were told that their responses were not an admission that they believed these stereotypes, so they would answer honestly. Some participants were asked about stereotypical attributes just for men and women or for Black people or white people. Then other groups were asked about a combination of race and gender, Black women, Black men, white women, and white men. The clustering of the responses show how Black women were viewed in relation to other groups. The typical woman was considered to be much more similar to a typical white woman than a typical Black woman. Black women and Black men were also were considered to be similar to each other than to white men to white women or white men. The operative word in defining how similar to other groups Black women are is more Black and less women, the journal article noted. Check this out. The under differentiation of black women from black men may help explain why black women face similar rates of racial disparities in traffic stops and arrests, but anti-racist movement often focus on black men in the fight against police brutality, said Josh Pasek, one of the researchers on the study and associated professor of communication studies and faculty associated in the Center for Political Studies at the University of Michigan. It said this is reflected both in terms of the victims of brutality who are highlighted and whose voices receive the most attention. In this moment, we can see how much more attention has been paid on the murders of Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd than the murder of Breonna Taylor. All right, then let's go down. It says, previous research has found that blackness is associated with masculinity, leading to errors when categorizing black women's gender or recognizing black women's faces. Other studies have found that black women and girls are more associated with threat and danger than are white women and girls. Feminist movements that focus only on issues that predominantly affect white women without addressing racialized sexism ignores the needs of black women who face higher rates of police abuses, including sexual violence. Cole said, previous research also has found that black women experience much higher rates of domestic and sexual abuse from partners than white women, and black women are less likely to report this violence than white women. Now, again, do we need the feminist movement? No, we don't. The article just showed you right there why we do not need to associate ourselves with it. Check this out. The key often starts with listening to black women about their concern and what their needs are, and then delivering accordingly. 3 out of 4 study participants were white, while 8% were black, 8% were Hispanic, and 5% were Asian. The responses weren't analyzed based on the ethnicity or gender of the participant because the study wasn't examining whether the participant endorsed specific stereotypes themselves. Previous research suggests that members of marginalized groups are aware of stereotypes of their groups, Cole said. Thus, they would likely report the same awareness of stereotypes as would members of other groups. So, my whole point is get rid of it. Get rid of, why do we keep subjugating ourselves to a group or a movement that don't care anything about us collectively? Why do we subjugate ourselves? Why we subjugate ourselves to a movement that don't really have as much power, but only gain privilege? Why subjugate yourself to that? I mean, we have a movement that is way better, and that's Africana womanism, but not many people want to give it a chance. And people say, well, it's the same thing. Not really. It's not. It's not the same as being in the feminist movement. It's not. As a matter of fact, I got the book right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the book. And I'm going to read what Dr. Clenora Hudson Williams wrote in this book. Okay? This is chapter 1 of Africana womanism, right? So watch this. It says, central to the spirit of Africans regarding feminism in the Africana community is the above quotation by internationally acclaimed African novelist and critic Ama Ata Adio. And it says, Black feminism, African feminism, womanism, feminism, you know how we feel about that embarrassing Western philosophy, the destroyer of homes, import mainly from America to ruin nice African women. Anyways, let me continue. So it says, one of today's most controversial issues in both the academy and the broader community is the role of the Africana woman within the context of the modern feminist movement. Both men and women are debating this issue, particularly as it relates to Africana women in their efforts to remain authentic in their existence, such as prioritizing their needs, even if the needs are not a primary concern for dominant culture. The ever-present question remains the same. What is the relationship between Africana woman and her family, her community, and her career in today's society that emphasizes, in the midst of oppression, human suffering, and death, the empowerment of women and individualism over human dignity and rights? Well, that's a good question. That's a good question. What's the relationship? Well, the relationship is dealing with oppression. That's the relationship. Because she understands and she knows what it means to be oppressed. Not only as a woman, but as a Black person. And she do whatever she can to bring awareness to the oppression that is happening within the community. That's the relationship she has. She understands oppression. And she deals with the struggle every day. And she put her life on the line as an African descended woman in America. And I'm not saying all women do it, but generally speaking, she'll put her life on the line. She'll make sure that her community is intact. She do little small things to help her community feel better, even if that means that whether it's cookout, whether it's inviting people over to have a gathering, having some form of fellowship, social club, whatever, she doing what she can. Now, are there destruction that's taking place within the community? Absolutely. There is destruction that is done by those women who have no brain, who have no care in the world, and that wants to destroy the dynamics. And not just women, but also with men alike as well. So we do have those individuals who bring about destruction, who bring about problem and chaos. But those individuals, you have to exit them out. You have to get them out the equation. But you have those who are really caring and compassionate and that's willing to do any and everything in their power to see their people progress and to become liberated. All right. Now, let's look at the next page. It says, why not feminism for Africana women? And she goes on to say, to begin with, the true history of feminism, its origins, and its participant reveals its blatant racist background, thereby establishing its incapability with Africana women. Feminism, earlier called the woman suffrage movement, started when a group of liberal white women whose concerns then were for the abolition of slavery and equal rights for all people, regardless of race, class, and sex, dominated the scene among women on the national level during the early to mid-19th century. At the time of the Civil War, such leaders as Susie B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton held the universalist philosophy on the natural rights of women to full citizenship, which includes the right to vote. However, in 1870, 15th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States ratified the voting rights of Africana men, leaving women, white women in particular, and their desire for the same rights undressed. Middle-class white women were naturally disappointed, for they had assumed that their efforts towards securing full citizenship for African people will ultimately benefit them too, in their desire for full citizenship as voting citizens. The result was a racist reaction to the amendment and Africanians in particular. Thus, from the 1880s on, an organized movement among white women shifted the pendulum to a radically conservative posture on the part of white women in general. Hmm. So what we see is the racism. Even Frances Harper, who was part of the abolitionist movement, right? And she was once supporting the feminist movement, and she realized that these folks are racist. These women racist as hell. They don't want to be bothered with us. Yeah, Frances Ellen Watkins Harper. She realized that these women they not trying to be bothered. They don't care. Watch this. Check this out. It says, after the Civil War, Harper took initiative in advocating for women's rights alongside white women, believing that the attention to be gained would be greater than if she were to approach it separately as a black woman. One of her motions to bring awareness of the inequality women faced was to publish two authors, which was the first short story to be published by an African American woman. This highlighted the issue for women when it came to the legal statute and economic dependency imposed to suppress women. And then watch this. To fight to get white women on the voting ballot, Harper believed wasn't going to serve all except those of the similar status and race. Wait a minute, check this out. It says what the fight to get white women on the voting ballot, Harper believed wasn't going to serve all except those of similar status and race. This drew the division for her when it came to not uniting with well-known white suffragists, excuse me, I can't even get the word out, suffragists Susie B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton. The National Woman Suffrage Association was not in favor of the 15th Amendment because they believed white women held superior vote to that of the African American man at that time. This led Harper to the American Woman Suffrage Association, where Frederick Douglass, another well-known civil rights activist, also collaborated with the organization. You see? So even Frances Harper, she recognized that these white women want to be like white men. They wanted to be superior. They want to be a dominant group. They're not thinking about us. They using us just so they can support their superiority and their ideology. And this is around the 18... What was it? This was around the 1870s that she discovered this. She realized that these women didn't care. So Frances Harper had to step away from the feminist movement. Like, nah, I'm good on that. I'm getting away from this. I'm getting away from y'all because I thought we was gonna be in this together. I thought y'all was gonna be down for the cause, like y'all said. I thought y'all was gonna be down for the abolitionist movement. I thought y'all was gonna be making sure that all black people have the right to vote, but y'all care about yourselves and y'all make yourself more superior. That's what the attitude is. Okay, I get it. I don't want to be a part of that. And why you should? Why should she? Why should she be part of something that don't represent her? Why? I wouldn't want to be a part of anything that don't represent me. Why put up a fight for it? Okay, now check this out. Also, in this book, she mentioned, and I'm going by the book. She mentions that feminism, a term conceptualized and adopted by white women, involves an agenda that was designed to meet the needs and demands of that particular group. For this reason, it is quite possible for white women to identify with feminism and the feminist movement. Having said that, the fact remains that placing all women's history under white women's history, thereby giving the latter the definitive position, is problematic. In fact, it demonstrates the ultimate of racist arrogance and domination, suggesting that that authentic activity of women resides with white women. Hence, in this respect, for white women, Africana women activists in America in particular, such as Sojourner Truth, Harriet Tubman, and Ida B. Wells, were pre-feminist in spite of the fact that the activities they were pre-feminist in spite of the fact that the activities of these Africana women did not focus necessarily on women's issues. Considering activities of early Africana women such as those mentioned above and countless other unsung Africana heroines, what white feminists have done in reality was to take the lifestyle and techniques of Africana women activists and use them as a model or blueprints for the framework of their theory, and then name, define, and legitimize it as the only real substantive movement for women. Hence, when they define a feminist and feminist activity, they are in fact identified with independent Africana women, women they both emulate and envy. Such women they have come in contact with from the beginning of American slavery all the way up to the modern civil rights movement, with such Africana women activists as Manny Till Mobley, the mother of Emmett Till, and Rosa Parks, the mother of the modern civil rights movement and the aftermath. So, in all conclusion, it'll be better to be an Africana woman. And if you're not going to be Africana, then it's better to not be involved in any type of organization that does not represent you. So why be involved in something that does not represent you? And someone sent me an article saying that there is some type of global feminist movement that focus on the sex trafficking. But at the same time, the question becomes, well, is it really beneficial for the people and the victim of sex trafficking, or is it just beneficial for certain individuals in that movement? That's my question. And so there's a lot of skepticism regarding to this, which makes me question the feminist movement, which makes me have my own thoughts and opinions on it. Now, for those of you who might want and you feel like that's what you represent and that's what you stand on, okay, that's you. By all means, do your thing. But in my opinion, we should not even be affiliated with none of that. You know what I'm saying? We should be affiliated with something that represents us and that could primarily focus on us as women and black women, with black women in particularly, We need to have something that could really focus more on us and focus on what we go through in our crisis, and something that is relatable for us. The only thing that we have in common with the white feminists is that we're women. That's the only thing we got in common. Everything else is predicated upon race and superiority, privilege. And I wish people could see that. And I've been going to days about how the feminist movement is just like, it's like what Queen Elizabeth was to England. Queen Elizabeth was the face to England, but she didn't really have no power. She was just a face. The people that was really in control running things were the prime ministers and those in the parliament. She was just a face. So that's the feminist movement. It's like the feminist movement is just a face. You just put the face out there. But the people that's really in power is the ones that's giving the privilege, that's giving the women certain rights to do certain things. And that's the patriarch. So at the end, feminist movement has not dismantled the patriarch. As a matter of fact, it pretty much helped the patriarch find ways to better enhance itself and how to go about delivering patriarchal rules. That's all it did. It didn't dismantle patriarch. It just gave it ways of the patriarchal ideology, or the society that we live in has found ways to be able to use the feminist movement as a way to exert power. As a way to say, you know what? We'll just give these women privilege. We'll just give these women, some opportunity just to pretty much shut them up. Because do you think they're going to give women total power in this country? Hell to the no. Hell to the no. So again, it's like you put the feminists on the pedestal, but at the end of the day, the patriarch is really running shit. Not the feminist movement. It's the patriarch. The feminist movement is just making a lot of noise, but there's not enough action, real action behind it. And then they got these stupid movements they do. They got stupid protests. They come out with this whole slut walk movement. They come with this getting naked movement. Take your bra off and burn your bras and throw your panties and all this other stupid shit. Yeah, all this stupid shit they have. And it doesn't do anything. It becomes a circus. It's like you went to a jubilee or something. It's like you went to a festival instead of going to a protest. Yeah, you got this power. You got the power to run your mouth. And you got the power to protest, but you ain't got enough power to solve the crisis that's going on. You're just on the pedestal. And the people that's in power, who you fighting against, you're not really fighting against them, because guess what? You can't really dismantle them. Because they're not going to get off their high horse. They're not going to remove themselves from power. They just gonna let you be on that pedestal, and they gonna still be running things the way they run it, and they gonna only give you a few rights of which they think that you are capable of having. But anyways, that's all I gotta say. So thank you guys for those of you that been tuning in, watching. Shout out to the chat. Peace to Brother Umi. Is to the street. BBO. Shout out to everybody. Shout out to those who've been watching my video. And make sure you like and subscribe and share the channel. And until next time, please be safe. And this your girl Tiffany. I'm logging off saying peace and power elevation be to all of you. Thank you so much. Once again, I appreciate y'all support. All right. So let me go ahead and call it a night. And y'all have a good one. Peace. Be safe.